All right, good morning, everybody. As you can see, we already, yes, you do. We can all, you already see that we have the screen up. Charlie Munger, that's this guy right here. He is, you probably heard of Warren Buffett if you've never heard of him. He is also from Omaha, Nebraska. He was Warren Buffett's best friend. I say was because he passed away 2 years ago at the ripe age of 99 in the 2000s. No, I'm just kidding. Most of us couldn't even dream of being that old, but this guy right here, him and Warren Buffett was still, he was the vice chair of Berkshire Hathaway, and Warren Buffett is the chairman. He used to be the CEO. But you know what? These guys are very financially savvy, and we are getting a treat today because from the grave, Charlie Munger is helping us. Now, obviously, he recorded this before he hit the grave. But listen, if you don't have a pen and pad, don't fail yourself. Get a pen, paper, grab your phone, open up a notepad because he is going to drop gems on this one. He's going to drop a lot of wisdom, and I want you to be able to pick it up. Pick up what he's putting down, put it in your pocket, and start walking with that knowledge. Okay, Charlie Munger is not someone that I was very privy to 5 years ago. I knew about Warren Buffett, but I only started learning about him a couple years ago, intricately about him and his business endeavors and stuff like that. So if you know nothing about what these guys were about, then you're in for a treat. And I'm going to go ahead and timestamp this to 2 minutes, but let's get it.
Let me tell you something that will make most people uncomfortable. You don't need a lot of money to live well, but nobody believes that anymore. They've been trained like Pavlov's dogs to think comfort comes from income, not from intelligence. That's the first and most dangerous delusion of modern life. You simply cannot out earn stupidity, no
Ooh,
matter how much you make. If you can't control yourself, you'll still end up broke. Only now.
I look, he's already swinging for the fences. Look, so the video is 35 minutes long, so I can't afford to pause it all the time, and I certainly can't afford to back it up. So you have to pay attention. He came out swinging for the fences. You cannot out earn stupidity. Bar.
Now you'll have nicer furniture while you're losing sleep. I've watched this pattern for 7 decades. Smart people, prestigious jobs, six-figure salaries, still living paycheck to paycheck. Not because they're unlucky, because they refuse to live rationally. They can't say no to the noise of consumption. And modern society has done a marvelous job making that noise deafening. Advertisers have turned frugality into something shameful, restraint into deprivation, and prudence into poverty. Well, let me tell you something they won't. Living below your means isn't deprivation, it's liberation. When your expenses are low, you control your time. When your obligations are small, you can walk away from stupidity. That's real freedom. But most people don't want freedom. They want approval. They'd rather look rich than be rich. And they'll trade decades of peace just to impress people who don't even care about them. I've seen it all my life. The same pattern is repeating. People chasing the next raise, the next promotion, the next luxury, thinking more money will fix what bad thinking caused. It never does. You can't fix bad habits with a higher income. You can only scale your mistakes. If you can't manage $1,000 wisely, you won't magically manage 10,000.
All right. I had to pause it. He said a lot of stuff. Do y'all see what I'm talking about? Like this guy is he was 99 when he passed November of 23, right? So he'd be 101 today. And if you heard him, he said I've watched this same pattern repeat for 70 years. So he was at least 70. I'm sure he was probably 80 something years old when he made this because when he's born, he's not watching this pattern. He probably needed to be more conscious, right? So maybe 9, 10 years old. So he is probably 80 something when he talked about this, but he said you cannot out earn stupidity. And he also just said if you can't manage $1,000 properly, you won't manage 10,000. And a lot of people wonder How did MC Hammer go broke? How did Nicolas Cage go broke? How did any of these big names, Tony Braxton, go broke? And they earned $1 million and yada yada. I'll tell you how they went broke, because they weren't managing their money. They weren't living from a budget. They weren't living from a spending plan. They didn't care anything for that. They just saw money coming in. In their time, I would say there was no Amazon, right? So, but just swiping on Amazon and buying, and never looking at the accounts to make sure you have it, never subtracting the bills from what you're bringing in, your net, and saying, I only have this much this month. They don't do that. And so it doesn't matter if you earn 200,000 a year, or if you earn 100,000 a year, or if you earn 500,000 a year, you will be broke if all you do is spend and there's no planning, right? And we just got through Christmas, and he talked about advertisers making sure they get you. Well, one thing they do a great job of here in America is making every holiday about spending money and buying stuff. And it's all liabilities. A car is the fastest depreciating value asset you'll ever buy. That's why you shouldn't buy them new, 3 to 5 years used, right? A pair of shoes, you're going to walk on them and decrease the value. No one cares about shoes after a while. And then you'll get people in the comments, well, I bought a pair of Nike 4s for $120 back in '04, and I sold it for $400 today. Great. That's a great return on investment you had to wait 21 years to get, whereas a stock would have done that, the same thing. And then are you doing that with 100 pair of shoes, 300 pair of shoes? Because I can buy 200 or 300 shares and get that return on investment in half a year, in 2 years, right? And so we're talking about the norm. So we just went through the holidays, and I guarantee you a lot of people broke the bank. See, what I did was I looked and I said, okay, let me set aside this amount of money, and this is all we're going to spend on gifts. That's a plan. Now, if you went over by a little bit, at least you didn't blow it to smithereens, right? Because you had some self-control. If you don't go in with a plan, you are going to spend to the nines and come out of the holidays broken and sick looking. Anyway, you didn't come to hear from a 39-year-old. You came to hear from a 99-year-old. Let me look at the chat really quickly. I hate saying it wrong, but I've been so conditioned. All right. It also linked again in the investment. It's also linked again in the investment chat, so you can watch on repeat later as we deep dive. Yeah, you can rewatch it, because he is going to drop a lot. This is the one I actually meant to play last week. The one last week, I mix them up, but he dropped a lot in that one. But listen, you didn't come from here 39. You came for the 99. I've seen folks complaining about being broke, and they make over 6 figures. Now imagine a financially literate, average earning person or a poor person looking at them, flipping pennies to survive, looking at them. No, it's very true, right? So, okay, I'll explain really quickly how this happens. You earn 30,000 a year. You don't budget, you don't plan, you don't have a spending plan. So at 30,000 a year, you're just spending money, right? Your debt to income ratio, you don't even know what it is, right? And so when you start earning 40,000 a year, you know what you do? You spend more because you still aren't planning. So that $10,000 that you should have a buffer, giving you more buffer in your debt to income ratio, you're spending it. And so you do that all the way up to $100,000, and the lifestyle creep. So your car is old, you need another car. Okay, got it. You go buy a BMW rather than buying a Honda Civic or a Honda Accord that's 3 or 5 years old and putting an extended warranty on it, right? The lifestyle creep is the problem. And if you don't prepare to defend against it out of ignorance because you don't really know about it, or I just don't want to live like that, prepare to be broke. And his buddy, Warren Buffett, has my favorite financial phrase of all time. If you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you'll work until you die. And most people don't have passive income coming in, so they have to work in order to earn money. Let's hear what the 99-year-old has to say.
If you can't save on 50,000 a year, you'll be just as broke at 200,000. Only now you'll have better clothes and a nicer car to distract you from the arithmetic. The math doesn't care about your feelings. The math just compounds your decisions, good or bad. Here's what most people miss. The amount you actually need to live comfortably is far less than you think, because comfort isn't a product of income. It's a byproduct of clarity. You don't have to live in constant debt. You don't have to buy things you don't even remember wanting. You don't need to impress anyone. You just need to stop acting like you're immune to arithmetic.
Real quick, really quickly. Jesus, I hate doing that. So I went to Best Buy, and I said this last week. I went to Best Buy and I was looking at this gadget and I was going to buy it. I went back 3 different times. And you know what? Every single time I talked myself out of it because I was like, I really want this, but I'm not going to use this. I'm going to use it right away. And then I'm not really going to use it after that because I'm so busy trying to earn money in different places and doing different things and trying to split time between the family. I'm not going to use this, and I shouldn't create an opportunity to use this because I'm taking time away from something else. I walked away the 3rd time and I never went back. And that just happened last week. Between 2 weeks ago and last week, I just decided I'm not going to buy it and I'm better off for it. And that's what he's talking about.
Warren and I built Berkshire on simple principles. Spend less than you earn. Invest the rest. Repeat for a long time. That's all wealth ever was. But simple doesn't mean easy because it requires discipline. And discipline isn't fashionable. The world sells excitement, not prudence. You'll never see an advertisement saying buy nothing and stay solvent. There's no profit in teaching you to think clearly. That's why you have to train yourself.
That's right.
Value peace over pleasure, clarity over clutter, control over convenience. If you want a comfortable life, start by keeping your bills low. Because once your bills rise, your freedom falls. Every subscription, every loan, every unnecessary expense is another chain around your neck. If you can't sleep well unless your paycheck arrives on Friday, you're not living freely. You're renting peace of mind. And
Did y'all hear that? Every subscription, every new bill is a chain around your neck, and now you're going to be working to pay that off when you could have just not bought it and been a-okay. So, I'm at 17 years in the Navy, as y'all might know. And these next 3 years, that's exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to defeat all debt so that we actually can have some breathing room in retirement and live well, right? So you're not constantly thinking about not having money if you have money. You're not constantly thinking about earning more money if you are not in debt. You're already living good. And that's what he's talking about. You could do that with 50,000, but you have to be disciplined all the way up.
rented peace always expires. Now let me address what I call the monthly expense treadmill. Modern life is a factory that manufactures obligations. You start small, a streaming subscription here, a car loan there, then a bigger house because you deserve it. Then furniture for the house, insurance for the car, gadgets for the lifestyle, until you wake up one day working just to feed the machine you built. It's a quiet trap. You don't even notice it tightening because every addition feels reasonable. But the sum of reasonable can become ruinous. The faster you run on this treadmill, the faster it moves. And the only way to win is to step off. How? By choosing deliberate simplicity, not deprivation, just clarity. Start by writing down what you owe each month. List every recurring bill, every automatic charge you've forgotten about. Then ask one brutal question. If I lost my job tomorrow, how long could I survive without panic? Most people can't last a month. That's not living. That's gambling with stability. The wealthy don't think like that. They build what I call a margin of safety. We use this principle in...
I'm sorry, did y'all catch that? Let me take it back 5 seconds. He talked about building a budget. He didn't say it had to be fancy. Get a sheet of paper. Write down you can write down your gross, but make sure you write down your net. So write down what you bring in before taxes, but write down what hits your bank account, and then write down every single bill you have every month and track it. So you could see right away, if you bring in 4,000 but 5,000 goes out, you're over leveraged. Your debt to income ratio is like 125%, whatever that math shakes out to be. Um, I think it's something like that. I don't know. 4,000, let's see. Oh, shoot. I'm not typing. 4,000 divided by, oh, shoot. All right, I'm going to click buttons because it's not working. Divided by 5,000, it's 80%. Yeah, I didn't do it right, but whatever. Y'all see what I mean? If you are spending more than you're bringing in, that's a problem, and that's what he's getting at.
People can't last a month. That's not living. That's gambling with stability. The wealthy don't think like that. They build what I call a margin of safety. We use this principle in investing. Don't get wiped out. Design your life so you can survive long droughts. The first way to build that margin isn't making more. It's owing less. Lower expenses mean higher endurance. It gives you time, options, and the ability to say no when life gets stupid. And life gets stupid regularly. I remember when I was young in Omaha, I watched people spend like they were immortal. They thought money was infinite and time was cheap. Now I watch their older versions, bitter, tired, still paying for lives they no longer enjoy. You see, when you attach your happiness to consumption, it expires as fast as your new gadget's battery. But when you attach it to independence, it compounds quietly. Keeping bills low does more than save money. It protects your sanity. It removes anxiety from your mornings. You stop waking up worrying about interest rates or layoffs or what the market's doing today because you've already built a smaller, smarter ship that can weather any storm. When people ask me how to get rich, I tell them start by not acting poor. And acting poor doesn't mean earning less. It means needing less. Every unnecessary bill is a tiny surrender of freedom. Every fixed payment is a promise you made to work harder just to stand still. The tragedy is most people call that normal. They think budgeting is punishment, but the truth is budgeting is self-respect. It's you telling your future self, I'm not going to screw you over. Just tracking what you spend changes how you behave. Because one...
All right, listen, I'm going to back this up 5 seconds. He said budgeting is not punishment. Budgeting is self-respect, because he said every new bill or subscription or something like that is a promise to continue working harder. Do you know how many t-shirts you can make out of the wisdom, the one-liners that he has on here? And it's not about that. It's about how you live. Put this stuff in action. This is actionable advice. This is not some sage-like wisdom that doesn't transcend the decades, the centuries. It does, actually. You could have put this in play in Rome way back in the year 44, in 100 BC, whenever. The richest man in Babylon talks about the same stuff he's talking about now. And so you could have always applied this. The richest man in Babylon talks about if you bring in 10 coppers, make sure you put one to the side, saving 10%, right? And then it also goes into, okay, if you save 2, if you can live on less, save 2 coppers. Invest 1, save 1. Now you have 20% of your money. 10% is working for you. 10% is saved just in case you need a little more. You see? But you don't ever have to borrow if you do it like that because it's there.
Screw you over. Just tracking what you spend changes how you behave. Because once you see the leak, you start fixing the pipe. You can't fix what you refuse to measure. That's why even a simple written list, income minus expenses, is more powerful than most financial software. It forces you to face the numbers, not the excuses. And once you see clearly, you start cutting ruthlessly. Cancel the subscriptions you forgot existed, refinance, or pay down the high-interest debts. Stop upgrading things that still work perfectly well. And for heaven's sake, Don't treat sales as savings. A discount on something you don't need is still a waste. The
Oof.
goal isn't to live miserably, it's to build breathing room, to make sure one broken appliance or one car repair doesn't collapse your whole plan. Because
All right. So he just said something that is crazy, and it's right here on the screen. A discount on something you don't need is still a waste. And how many of us go around really, think about really, how many of us really go around buying needs? Needs, right? They're wants. And you can tell, I always say, if you bring me to somebody's residence, wherever they live, show me their driveway, parking space, or garage. Show me their living room, or man cave or woman cave, wherever their living room and their entertainment system and all that kind of stuff is, right? Wherever they lounge at, and show me their closet. And if they have a shoe closet, a separate one for shoes, show me that. If you show me those three things, I will show you where their money is going, the bulk of their money, because in their parking space is going to be something they don't need. Where somebody, watch this, somebody lives 10 miles from work or 5 miles from work, and they don't have an e-bike in their driveway parking space or something chained to a rail. They have a BMW, and they don't even drive. They don't really go anywhere. They go to and from work. So what did you need a BMW for? You didn't. You needed transportation, but you chose a BMW. You don't even know that it stands for Bavarian Motor Works. You have no idea what BMW even stands for, but you're paying 15 grand more, 20 grand more for the same amount of car you could have got with an H, with the cowboy looking T, with the brother Nissan. I think that's what it means. So just think about it like that. If you live 5 miles from work and you don't really go anywhere else, why do you need a car? Get an e-bike. If you have a long commute and you feel safe enough to do it, is this one is a big safety one. Why don't you get a motorcycle? You burn less gas. You can get there the same amount of time, right? If you're like me and you commute all the way down an hour plus, and you deal with all this traffic on the way back, it will really save you a lot of time. You just need to be so careful. You got to have your head on the swivel. And I'm just saying, think about it, right? You need transportation, but some of you got, like in New York City, they take the bus, they take the subway. They're not spending money on a car because in New York City, you have to pay for parking, right? Do you have enough apartment for what you need? Why do you have a 2-bedroom apartment and you're one single dude? I'll tell you why. Because that room is full of crap and that room is full of crap. My best friend and I had this guy, this acquaintance, a friend we worked with, and he went to his house one time and told me stories, and I didn't believe it. So we went over there, both of us, and the dude was a sneakerhead, but so much so that when my best friend, you had to take your shoes off in his house, which is fine. That's how I live too. But when my best friend took his shoe off, homeboy picked up one of the shoes as soon as it hit the floor and smelled it. It was brand new shoes. It was like the Jordan 4s or something. And him went to the mall and got them. They were in line. I know. Hey, yo, they were in line at like 4 a.m, waiting for the mall to open. And he had called me that morning. I thought it was insane. For shoes? I don't care about shoes. And so we went up to the guy's room, and my best friend was not lying. He had sneaker boxes, 1, 2, 3 high, all the way across his room. He had the bar in the closet for hanging stuff removed, and he has like 4 rows of sneaker boxes all the way up to that little shelf. And he had boxes on top of the shelf. You know why he's gonna work until he dies? Because if he doesn't change that mindset, because I made a short about this before. The average pair of Jordans costs about $200, but Robinhood stock back in 2022 was $719. That would buy you 27 point something, almost 28. Let's deal with 28. Let's do a round number, right? Shares of Robinhood stock, right? So now, this year, Robinhood went over $100, right? Let's just say it's 107, right? So you get $100 worth of equity, or 108, right? That would be worth $2,800, right? So I said, look at it this way. The next time you look in your closet and you see 10 pairs of Jordans, don't look at it as 10 pairs of Jordans. That's 10 missed opportunities to have earned $28,000, almost $30,000 in wealth. And that guy, had he done that back in, this was 05, 06, had he done that in 05, 06 with Microsoft stock or anything else, that dude would be sitting on hundreds of thousands of dollars, and including dividends. But think about it. What is he talking about? You can't out earn stupidity. Now we're 39. How much money does he have in his stock portfolio? And not everybody invests, but does he even own a home? He was living at home with his parents. He was going to a community college. And this isn't about him. This is about what Charlie Munger is saying. You cannot out earn stupidity. If you don't need something, it doesn't matter if it's on sale. You don't need it. Don't buy it. All right, chat. What do we got? It cracks me up when people see the word sale and they think it is a sale without cost comparing. Yeah, they do that too. And my wife and I talk about this all the time. When they say, oh, Christmas sale, well, we watched it all year long and we looked at it in June and we say, you know what? It's on sale right now, but watch, at Christmas, it's going to be the same price. And they're going to say, or it's going to be $10, $5 higher. And they're going to say sale. And it's not. Anyway, not $39, $99.
The goal isn't to live miserably. It's to build breathing room, to make sure one broken appliance or one car repair doesn't collapse your whole plan. Because if one surprise expense can destroy your finances, that's not a surprise. That's a design flaw. Keeping bills low isn't just about money. It's about mental space. When your fixed costs are small, you can take risks, invest aggressively, and live calmly. When they're huge, you're trapped. You become a slave to the next paycheck, no matter how big it is. I've met countless professionals who can't afford to quit jobs they hate, not because they don't have income, because they have too many bills. They bought themselves golden handcuffs, nice, shiny, suffocating. Remember, the goal is freedom, not luxury, and the path to freedom begins with subtraction.
All right, look, I'm going to let him talk, but I'm going to say this really quickly. He said he's met lots of people who cannot quit jobs they hate. Them that are they say that if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. But even that could be filled with misery, because what he said was you could lose sleep over this, thinking about interest rates, thinking about the next bill due, thinking about how your paycheck is not enough. I've been through this. And I'm telling you, he's not wrong. If you are stressing all the time about money, it's because you do not, it's not that you don't have money, it's that you don't have money left over at the end of the month. So if you need another job, another source of income, that's what you need. If you need, if you need another paycheck coming in, then that's what needs to happen. But the purpose of that, it doesn't even need to be long term. Beat down the debt and don't create any more. And now you have breathing room. When we say one salary or one income cannot pay for our lives today, it's because we're looking on Instagram and looking at the people with private jets, people going to Tulum, people going to Dubai, Abu Dhabi. Look, you can't afford expensive vacations and getaways and stuff like that unless you're going to work for it. If you can't afford that on one paycheck, then get a second one. And that whole second paycheck, if you can live off the first and save and invest, then let that second paycheck, still invest some of it, but let 50 to 80% of it use that for your getaway money. If you want getaways and vacations and you can get your debt down and keep it down with one paycheck, then the other person working, that's your getaway money. You're working so that you can vacation and take getaways. That's not a bad strategy if you really think about it, but you shouldn't do it all from one paycheck. You can't have it all, and you can't have it all right now. And that's the problem. Everybody wants everything right now. They want vacations, they want designers, they want perfumes and colognes. If you go in that closet and that closet is packed out with clothes and you don't wear, you got stuff you don't even wear in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, you have too much. And that's the mindset he's talking about. He's 99, I'm 39. We're saying the same thing, but he's saying more, and he's saying it richer than I could ever do because he has years and decades on me.
Not addition. If you can lower your monthly burn rate, you automatically raise your peace of mind. Every dollar you don't owe is a dollar that compounds for you, and every bill you avoid paying is another brick in the wall protecting your independence. Now let's talk about what most people get backwards. They think wealth is about how much you earn. It isn't. It's about how much you keep. You can't out-earn stupidity. I'll say it again because it needs repeating. If you make $1 million and spend $1 million, you're not rich. You're just temporarily solvent. That's why the smartest people I know live below their means, not at or above them. When I was young, I saw a strange pattern. The janitor who saved 10 cents out of every dollar retired with peace. The lawyer who spent 11 cents out of every dollar retired with regret. What matters is the gap between what comes in and what goes out. That gap is your freedom. That's your margin of safety for life. It's what allows you to invest, to think clearly, to walk away from stupidity when you see it coming. If your lifestyle expands every time your income rises, you're just running faster on the same treadmill.
Ooh, that was a bar. That was a financial bar. I didn't know Charlie Munger had it like that, man. You know what? If he was a rapper, he'd be better than 50 Cent. He'd be better than Drake. Any of these other guys out here with financial literacy. We need to make this great again. Financial literacy. But listen, what he's talking about works in other arenas too. He's talking about, if you apply that same principle to even eating, right? We eat too much. You don't burn as many calories as you're taking in, so you're going to get fat. The same principle he's talking about, he said you are just running faster on the same treadmill. That's crazy. That's sage like wisdom, but you know what? He's got it. I don't. Let me rewind this some so we can not miss it.
Between what comes in and what goes out. That gap is your freedom. That's your margin of safety for life. It's what allows you to invest, to think clearly, to walk away from stupidity when you see it coming. If your lifestyle expands every time your income rises, you're just running faster on the same treadmill. People call it upgrading their life. I call it upgrading their anxiety. The truth is harsh, but it needs saying. You will never have enough if you can't be satisfied with enough. Every dollar you overspend buys a temporary high and a permanent obligation.
So my wife and I were watching this show. It's called The Beast Within or something like that. It's on Netflix. It's about some author living next to some guy who's a movie star and out of control. And there was a rumor that he killed his wife or something. I can't remember what it's called. But it's funny because he has an uncle. And the uncle is like a hitman. He does stuff here and there. And the uncle's nephew is the movie star or famous guy, businessman that lives next to the author. And I remember his nephew's wife was talking to the uncle, and she was like, oh, you can make all this money if you just did this and did that and did that. And he said, you know what? I'm not interested in that. She said, why? And he said, because I have what you, her husband, his nephew, and my brother will never have. And she said, what's that? And he said, enough. And he got in the car and drove away. I said, yo, That is cold. Or he went in the house or wherever he was going. But that's cold. That's a mic drop. And that's what he just said. If you cannot be satisfied with enough at $50,000, if you double your salary, you won't be satisfied then. You got to see these things as stealing your time, making you work more years to pay them off. And how silly would it be if you look around your closet and see high heels that you had to work another 2 years to pay off, a bunch of Puma, because I have a few of those in my closet, shoes that made you work more. You look in your garage and you say, you know what? That car set me back 5 years from retiring. That car, I could have had $50,000 more money, dollars, or each dollar is an employee. I could have had $50,000, 50,000 employees in my corporation, yourself, right? Working for me, earning more, dividends and everything. But because I did this stupid thing, I can't get it. And this is exactly what he's talking about. Chat, what do we got? Also means that you have to let people go who want to spend your money. Let's 100 that one. I appreciate that. H to the Izzo. That is sage like wisdom. They aren't friends and they might be family, but don't let them own your bank. You're exactly right. Let people go who want to spend your money. Sounds like personal experience. I bet you ain't 99 though. I know you, so I know you're not.
You become addicted to a standard of living that doesn't belong to you. I once said the first rule of compounding is to never interrupt it unnecessarily. That doesn't just apply to investments, it applies to your behavior. If you're constantly interrupting your savings by chasing the next shiny thing, compounding never gets the chance to do its job. And compounding is the eighth wonder of the world if you give it time. Here's a simple rule I've followed my whole life. If you earn $1,000, live on $500 and invest the rest. Do it long enough and you'll be amazed at what happens. Because small surpluses compounded for decades beat big paychecks squandered in months every single time. Living below your means doesn't mean living miserably. It means designing your life intelligently, owning fewer, better things, keeping your obligations light, having more room to think and breathe. I know people who built fortunes just by not acting foolish. They weren't geniuses. They were consistent. They knew that comfort built on debt isn't comfort. It's camouflage.
All right. I read the Millionaire Next Door this year. That's one of the books that I finished, and they said the same thing. There were people earning. What they did was they interviewed a bunch of millionaires. Just read the book. I got to get through this video, right, and get this wisdom out to everybody, right. But they interviewed millionaires, and you would think when you hear millionaires, you think 500 million or 500,000 a year or something like that. No, these people weren't earning that. And this was back in 95, 96, 94. They were writing this book. These people were earning like 100 grand then, which nowadays is more comparable to like $300,000. But think of all these Hollywood stars and think of all these people who earn that and are still broke. These people did not build their lifestyles up to what they earn. They got a used Honda Accord, rode it to the wheels fell off, kept the maintenance low. The average millionaire was like, their car was like 8 years old. But then they interviewed this one guy who was worth like $2.4 million on a $50,000 salary. And in 96, I get it. That's probably about 100 grand now. But how did he do it? Because he wasn't spending on stupid stuff. He was putting a bunch of his paycheck away into his IRA. They said in that book that was written back in 96, published back in 96, most people, the average age they would hit millionaire, if they hit $1,000,000 status, which most people do not, $1 million net worth, if they hit $1 million net worth, the average age was 59 and they were doing it through their IRAs, individual retirement accounts. So that's what he's saying. It doesn't take a lot of money to become wealthy. You just have to make it work for you if you don't always want to have to work for it. You see how, look at this man's face. How old do you think he is right there? I venture to say he's at least 80. I say halfway through his 70s at least, right? He was still working because he wanted to. And he's a C-suite executive as vice chair of Berkshire Hathaway. Now, take the suit off and put a Walmart jacket on. Does he still want to work now? No. Does he still want to work for Costco and Amazon lifting heavy boxes? No. But that's what most of us do because we don't listen to this wisdom and we buy dumb stuff. Let's hear it.
They knew that comfort built on debt isn't comfort, it's camouflage. Most folks chase financial freedom like it's a jackpot, but freedom is just the result of discipline repeated quietly over many years. It's not a prize you win, it's a habit you build. When you live below your means, strange things happen. You stop caring about keeping up. You stop comparing. You stop needing. That's when compounding starts to work for you instead of against you. Every dollar you save is a soldier fighting for your independence. Every impulse purchase is a deserter. And most people keep sending their soldiers to die in the war of vanity. The irony is, once you stop living for appearances, life actually gets better. Less clutter, less debt, more peace. You realize that happiness is not a function of consumption. It's a result of control. You'll hear people say you only live once, so spend it. That's idiotic, because if you spend it all, you only live once before going broke. The smarter version is you only live once, so live with foresight. Every decision about money is really a decision about time. Spend recklessly, and you trade future years for present moments.
Yep.
Spend wisely, and you buy back decades of calm. That's the real luxury, time and peace, not toys and brands. Here's a test I give people. If you lost your job today, how many months could you stay home? If the answer is none, then you don't own your lifestyle.
Boom.
It owns you. Living below your means builds what Warren and I call optionality. It lets you take risks, invest aggressively, or simply rest without fear. It's how you make sure the game doesn't end before you're done playing. Most people make the mistake of believing that success buys security. It doesn't. Only restraint does. The best investors, the happiest retirees, the calmest people I know all practice restraint as if it were a religion. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. You can't compound what you don't save, and you can't save if you can't control yourself. So before you look for the next stock or the next raise or the next scheme, look at your habits. If your expenses rise every time your income does, you're not progressing. You're inflating. And soon...
All right. So again, what he's saying works in any realm. Look at the gym, right? I was at 18 years old, at 17 years old, I may have been an inch shorter, right? But I was 130 pounds. I started lifting weight my senior year in high school. I got up to 140 pounds. All I needed was 2 vitamins. This is going to sound weird, but AO, vitamin D, discipline, vitamin C, consistency. All that is discipline over and over. Now I'm 200 pounds. My traps are halfway up to my earlobes. My shoulders are big, round boulder, right? But that took years and years of discipline over and over, consistency. And those are the nutrients that most of us are missing in any aspect of our life. If you look at most people who are out of shape or just A shape, round, they don't have discipline and they don't have consistency in that discipline. You can't have consistency in something you don't have. And that's what he was just saying. One of the biggest things he just said was that if something, then if your expenses exceed what you're bringing in or something, that you don't own your lifestyle, it owns you. There's more.
Stock or the next raise or the next scheme. Look at your habits. If your expenses rise every time your income does, you're not progressing, you're inflating, and sooner or later, bubbles burst. The smartest move isn't making another dollar. It's mastering the urge to spend the one you already have.
That's right.
If you do that long enough, wealth becomes inevitable, not because you found a shortcut, but because you stopped doing stupid things. Now, here's something most people fail to understand about unexpected money: bonuses, tax refunds, overtime pay, inheritance. That's the moment most people fail the intelligence test. They call it extra money, as if it's free. So they spend it like it's free. And in a few weeks, it's gone, and they can't even remember what it bought. Let me be clear: how you handle unexpected money tells me everything about your financial maturity. If you waste it, you're impulsive.
Yep.
If you plan it, you're building a future. When you get a little more than usual, don't rush to treat yourself. Pause, think, ask a simple question: what will this dollar do for me a year from now? If the answer is nothing, you're about to commit a small financial crime against yourself. You don't have to be a genius to get rich. You just have to stop acting like an idiot when you get lucky. I've watched people turn small windfalls into lifelong leverage. They didn't celebrate with a vacation or a new car. They paid off debt. They built an emergency fund. They bought assets that quietly worked while they slept. Meanwhile, others blew the same money on shiny distractions and then wondered why life never got easier. Look,
It's never going to get easier if you do that. He said he gives them the intelligence test, or they fail the intelligence test when they get their tax refund, they get a pay increase, or they get a bonus. If they spend that money, they fail the intelligence test. Because really, and that's what we have to change. Yes, we live in America. It's almost like what Jesus said: you live in the world, but you are not of the world. You need to maintain being Christ-like, right? Christ-like Christian, right? That's what he's saying. You may live in America, but you don't have to act like America wants you to act, because if you go all the way to the beginning of this video, watch it on YouTube, he talks about how society markets to keep you broke, and they don't teach you this information because they don't want you to succeed. They want your dollars. Remember, we live in a capitalistic society. We don't live, and that means money first. That means business first. And that means that's what this country loves. And if you read that Bible, it doesn't say that money is the root of all evil. People get it wrong. It says the love of money is the root of all evil. And that's pretty darn evil when you put money above your citizens. So you're not thinking about their well-being. You're thinking about the well-being of oligarchs and companies first. That's wrong.
luck is wasted on the undisciplined. Every dollar you treat with purpose compounds. Every dollar you spend carelessly disappears and teaches you nothing. That's why I always tell young people, when extra money shows up, act like it won't come again. Because often it won't. If you don't assign it a job, it will find trouble. And money loves trouble. Plan before it arrives. That's what responsible people do. They already know. If I get a bonus, 50% goes to investments, 30% to debt, 20% to life enjoyment. Simple, predictable, rational, no emotion.
Let me let him say that again.
20% goes to what people do. They already know. If I get a bonus, 50% goes to investments, 30% to debt, 20% to life enjoyment. Simple, predictable, rational, no emotions involved. You see, emotion is what destroys financial progress. People get a taste of success and instantly want to advertise it. They forget that quiet money compounds. Loud money disappears. You don't need to live like a monk, but you do need to live like a strategist, because money without a plan will always flow towards stupidity. When you plan where every extra dollar goes, you remove randomness from your life, and randomness is what ruins most people. The difference between those who get rich and those who stay stuck isn't opportunity. It's discipline. Discipline with what looks small today. That small bonus you invested might pay your mortgage 20 years from now. That tax refund you used to pay off debt might save you decades of interest. That extra paycheck you put in an index fund instead of a vacation might give you freedom when everyone else is still working. People underestimate how fast discipline compounds. They think it's just a few $100s, but a few $100 invested wisely and repeatedly turns into independence faster than you think.
All right, I'm gonna back that up 5 seconds or 10 seconds. I meant five, but I did it twice. So whatever. I did it now. So let me read the chat really quickly, and I'm gonna talk about something he's talking about. As a matter of fact, let me do that first because I will forget. He said, talking about discipline, a few $100 repeatedly invested turns into a very wise move, basically. Here's one of our problems. Let me get the chat off of the screen so you can look into my brown eyes, okay? Here's the problem. Most of us have never seen this work. The problem is not whether it works or not. The problem is our faith or lack thereof in the process. When you tell somebody that's what you're going to do, they're going to believe you or not based upon if they believe in that process. And a lot of it comes from what they did or didn't see as kids. If they've only seen W-2 employee work in their life, then they don't understand a 1099, a 1098. They don't understand LLC and stuff like that, and they won't believe in it until it's off the ground, flying at cruising altitude where it pays for itself, or you set up AI, or you have a virtual assistant that runs all the stuff and the money just comes in. They won't believe it until it gets there. And a lack of faith is killing your paycheck. It's killing your investment accounts or what it could look like because people don't believe in it. So they get it and they spend it because they can believe in the tangible. They can't believe in the intangible. Yeah, your account, your investment account, like I broke over 100,000 this year, right? And some people, most people, let's be real, we broke over 100,000, take it out, go buy the Maybach. But now all of your employees are gone and they're no longer at work. Shut the lights off, close it down, sell the building, but you're going to get zero out of it. You just ripped yourself off. When you had 100,000 employees working for you and they're going to bring in more employees to work. And that's exactly what he's talking about. Now, let me read the chat. My dad once told me you can never get back what you spend. If you make $100 and spend $100, you will never get that $100 back. Sure, you can make another $100, but instead of having $200, you will only have $100. I might not have said that correctly, but I hope it makes sense. No, it makes perfect sense. Let's 100 that as well. I refuse to 100 what I say, but no, he's exactly right. So a lot of people, if you add up what they made over the course of a lifetime, they may have made $1-2 million. But then if they look at where they live, if they look at what's in their driveway, if they look at their bank accounts, let's look at assets. Let's look at where they live. So a house or no. Let's look at my brown eyes. Let's look at their investment accounts. Let's look at the life insurance. Let's look at the retirement accounts. And they may have made $2.4 million in their lifetime, but where is it? Where is it? He said it's not about what you earn. It's about how much you can keep. And he's exactly right. That's why in The Millionaire Next Door, the guy who earned $50,000 a year was worth like $2.4 million because he had all assets and nothing was pulling on his money for debt.
Pounds. They think it's just a few $100s, but a few $100s invested wisely and repeatedly turns into independence faster than you think. The world doesn't reward the smartest. It rewards the most consistent. Consistency looks boring, but it wins. Here's how I think about it. Every dollar you earn has a choice. It can work for you or against you. If you spend it, it's gone. If you invest it, it recruits more dollars to your army. Over time, that small army becomes an empire. The tragedy is that most people never give their dollars a chance to work. They fire them the moment they arrive. It's not the market that keeps people poor. It's the absence of a plan. They don't.
And that's just it really quickly. So people will look at him and say, oh, this guy was a billionaire. but he didn't start off a billionaire. He was just like anybody else, a naked baby that was born into this world that only knew how to cry because he was hungry or cold or both. He had nothing, right? And when you see these guys, some of these guys come from nothing and they made everything. Some of these guys maybe got a little help from their parents, but it doesn't matter because you have spoiled brats who get everything from their parents and then they blow it all, right? Remember, most generational wealth is lost within the first 2 generations of when it was earned. So that's grandpa or great grandpa at this point. His kids help drain it. Their kids help drain it. Their kids have nothing because they have wiped it all out because they are consumer based. They only want to buy, spend, and consume. They never want to save and invest to grow. That's why when I asked my Discord, what would you do with $100,000? People rushed off to say, I pay this off, pay that off, pay that off, pay that off. And I said, well, you could just put it in the Orchid Island Capital, get you 13,000 shares, 13,500 shares, which will crank you out $1,600, almost $1,700 a month, and take 1,000 a month and lock up the other 600 and something. And wouldn't that help your situation? And guess what? You still have 100 grand because you never touched the principal. But the more you know, I'm not making fun of people for not knowing it. I just want people to learn it.
It's not the market that keeps people poor. It's the absence of a plan. They don't lose money because they're unlucky. They lose it because they behave predictably badly. You don't need to be perfect, just intentional. If you get a bonus, have a plan. If you get a refund, have a plan. If you get a windfall, have a plan. Because the moment you start planning, you stop gambling. And wealth has never been built on gambling, only on patience and reason. Let me address something that makes people uncomfortable: shopping. It has become the modern religion. Temples everywhere, open 7 days a week, and every sermon says the same thing: you deserve it. Well, the graveyards are full of people who deserved it. I'm not against comfort, I'm against stupidity. And most spending today is just stupidity dressed up as self-care. You walk into a store for one thing and leave with 5.
I'm sorry, did y'all hear that? He said, I can't back it up that far because we've got like 20 more minutes of the video, but he said shopping has become the modern day religion. It's just like eating. Apply this to anything else, right? We shop when we're bored. We eat when we're bored. We shop well, that would be bored. I was going to say when we have nothing else to do. We eat when we have nothing else to do. Same thing. Just apply it to anything else, and it's the same thing. Modern day religion, shopping. And most of us are not buying what we need. We're buying wants.
Against stupidity. And most spending today is just stupidity dressed up as self-care. You walk into a store for one thing and leave with 5. You open an app just to browse, and somehow you bought another gadget you'll forget in a week. That's not bad luck. That's engineered behavior. Corporations spend billions studying how to make you click buy now. They know your impulses better than you do, and every impulsive purchase is a little victory for them and a little defeat for you.
And that is correct. They use AI and algorithms to show you the stuff you have viewed. So if you window shop before, that algorithm is triggered. And what you clicked on before and you viewed before, that's the first thing that's going to be there when you show your face. Why? Because of capitalism. They are trying to make you click buy. Don't be mad at them. Be mad at yourself for a lack of self-control. That's what he just said. The most valuable commodity nowadays is not gold. It's not silver. It's not diamonds. It's data.
That's why I have a simple rule that saved me millions over my lifetime. Never buy anything the same day you want it. Wait 24 hours. If you still want it tomorrow, maybe it's worth it. But you'll be surprised how often desire evaporates faster than reason returns. The 24-hour rule sounds trivial, but it's a form of discipline. And discipline is wealth's bodyguard. When you delay gratification, you take power back from the world, trying to sell you comfort at compound interest. Because make no mistake, Debt is comfort's hangover. Most entertainment works the same way. It's marketed as reward. You've worked hard, so now you deserve to escape. But escape costs money, and escape repeated often enough becomes dependency. I've seen people spend half their income on fun, concerts, dinners, events, weekends that vanish faster than the receipts fade. They confuse stimulation with satisfaction. You can enjoy yourself without bankrupting yourself. You just have to ask, is this pleasure or is this compensation?
That is correct. You can entertain yourself without going broke. And you know what? It really, really just takes being real. Can you afford it or not? If you can't, you can be mad, you can stomp, you can do a backflip, a back flip if you want to, a sidewinder. I don't care. But if you can't afford it, find something you do that you can afford. Work harder to afford it. Pay that debt off. That's what's killing most people. Pay the debt off. Now, I don't want y'all to be confused, right? Let me put a timestamp here. He is not saying have the poor man's mindset of thinking that money is only for paying debt. That's not what he's saying. And he's saying avoid the middle class mindset that thinks money is only for buying things and you won't be broke. That will make you have the poor man's mindset of now I'm only working to pay off debt, because you're never living and enjoying life if that is what you do. The middle class mindset is the worst mindset to have, but it's either or, it's not both. You either have the wealthy man's mindset that knows that investing and money is for investing and making money babies, or putting the money to work for you, or you have the middle class mindset that says money is only for buying things. And most of us, if we're being real, we are buying stuff on other people's money, credit, and we have to pay that stuff back with interest. And that is what he is saying avoid, because now you're only working to pay off the dumb decisions that you made. Stop making dumb decisions is what he's saying.
Most people don't want joy. They want distraction from a life they don't control. When you fix the foundation, when you're not drowning in bills, when you're investing wisely, you don't need as much entertainment. Your life itself becomes peaceful enough that you're not desperate for escape. There's nothing wrong with enjoying life, but enjoyment without boundaries becomes erosion. So set limits. If you love dining out, plan it once a week, guilt-free, fully enjoyed, but not every night out of boredom or habit. The trick isn't to remove pleasure, it's to give it context. Pleasure should be spice, not the main dish. And remember, not all entertainment is created equal. Some feeds you, some empties you. A good book costs $10 and can change your perspective for decades. A random night out can cost $200 and leave you with nothing but a headache. If you must spend on the things that compound in value. Yep. Education, health, relationships. The returns on those are exponential.
And you know what? The Millionaire Next Door, I believe it cost me less than $20. I put that stuff into play, and they can take your money. You can lose money, but they can never take your wisdom and what your education. That's what he's talking about there. I think the book cost me about $10, if I remember correctly, but I'm going to tell you right now, the man is speaking wisdom, and we can be mad at it or we can get with it. Be real about this stuff. If you don't do it, you're going to wind up like the 80%. Look, the gap between the people who have and the people who have not in America is increasing. The middle class is shriveling away. Right? Sooner or later, America is going to be like everywhere else in the world that we call a third world country. You have haves and you have have-nots. To me, the biggest difference between third world countries and first world countries is that middle class that is quickly shrinking. Quickly shrinking. Other places, you either have it or you don't. You're either rich or you're poor. There's no two ways about it. That middle class they have, there are some people who maybe run a store and they have a couple cars they rent or something like that. but that is super, super small everywhere else around the world. So remember that.
Everything else depreciates the moment you touch it. Impulse spending is emotional investing with guaranteed losses. That's why marketers always target your feelings, never your logic, because logic doesn't buy. Emotion does.
That's right.
But the older you get, the clearer it becomes. Satisfaction doesn't come from accumulation, it comes from control. From being able to look at something you could buy and saying, no, I'd rather keep my freedom. Every time you resist an impulse, your financial muscles grow stronger. Every time you give in, you feed the weakness that keeps you poor. The real luxury isn't in what you own, it's in what you can walk away from. A person who can say no lives better than the one who says yes to everything. That's why restraint is underrated. It doesn't trend, but it's the foundation under every lasting fortune. Most people chase dopamine, not dividends. They get the thrill of spending, then the dread of bills. It's a cycle of momentary joy and long-term regret. The rational man breaks that cycle by questioning every purchase, every craving, every illusion. Ask yourself, do I want this, or was I told to want this?
He's not wrong. He said most people chase dopamine, not dividends. Sister, put that on a t-shirt. We are forging today. It didn't break. All right, listen, let's get back to it.
Illusion. Ask yourself, do I want this?
Just got these.
Or was I told to want this? Is this purchase adding meaning or just removing boredom? The honest answers will save you a fortune. If you practice this long enough, you'll notice something strange. You start enjoying what you already have. You realize you didn't need more. You just needed perspective. Now let's talk about something nobody wants to hear, but everyone needs to practice. Research before purchase. People spend weeks researching a vacation, but 5 minutes buying a car. They'll compare Netflix shows for an hour, but won't spend 10 minutes reading a product review before dropping thousands of dollars. That's not poverty.
I didn't mean to pause
That's
that.
Negligence. And negligence is expensive. I've seen this pattern my whole life. People think they're saving time, but what they're really doing is trading intelligence for convenience. And convenience, when it comes to money, is a very costly luxury. Let me tell you something simple that Warren and I have practiced our entire careers. Every purchase is an investment decision. You're trading capital for utility. And if you don't understand the value, you're gambling. It's no different from buying stocks. When you buy a company, you study its fundamentals, profits, debts, durability. When you buy a car, a washing machine, or even a laptop, the logic should be the same. But most people don't do that. They just pick what's shiny and hope for the best. Hope in finance or in shopping is a terrible strategy. When you fail to research, you pay for ignorance twice. Once with money and again with regret. Because ignorance always compounds faster than interest. Here's the thing, products aren't equal. 2 washing machines might look identical, but one lasts 10 years and the other breaks in 3. Buy the cheap one twice and congratulations. You've paid more for less. That's not saving money.
So, there was a wise man who once said, cheap is the most expensive you'll ever buy. And one of my brothers, love you, learned this lesson. I told him when he was going to work for this company that shall remain nameless to get a $200 pair of shoes because it will be well made. The stitching, the leather, all of it, it'll be comfortable. He says, nah, that's too much money, right? Because he just started working. And I said, well, these shoes would be a better investment than these cheap ones. So he went and bought a cheap pair of shoes for $50. In 3 months, he needed another pair. And so he got another pair. And I said, hey, remember, I told you to buy the $200 pair of shoes. You're halfway to buying those shoes right now. And he was like, okay, yeah, whatever. In 3 more months, he needed another pair. And he keeps buying the same $50 pair of shoes, right? Now you're at $175, right? I said, you're right underneath the pair of shoes I told you to get in the beginning. Buy one more and you will have exceeded the pair of shoes I told you to get. You'd be right there with it, actually, with tax, right? And guess what he did? He got to that extra pair of shoes. So cheap is the most expensive you ever buy. And if you add up the tax and the actual dollar value of it, they were 50 something, right? He actually spent more on the cheaper shoes than he would have with the one pair of good shoes. That's what he's talking about.
Keep one twice and congratulations. You've paid more for less. That's not saving money. That's prepaying for stupidity. Research turns spending into strategy. It converts impulse into intelligence. It forces you to slow down long enough to ask, what am I really buying? A lot of people hate that question. They don't want to think, they want to consume. But thinking is what protects you from traps designed for the impulsive. And in case you haven't noticed, the world is full of traps. They call them limited time offers. Act now. Only 2 left in stock. All designed to disable your brain. Because your brain, if you use it, ruins their business model. If you want to live intelligently, make thinking a reflex. Do your homework before you hand over your wallet.
Good God Almighty, man. I hope y'all are writing this down. Listen, with that, look at it like this. If you need to do an us versus them kind of thing in your brain to say, they're trying to get my money, they're trying to get my wallet, why are they telling me only 2 left? Because they're trying to create the fear of loss. I don't like that because somebody's trying to use me in a bad way. Somebody is trying to get me. Think about it like that then. You can think corporation or business bad and people good because they are trying to squeeze every dollar out of you, and he's showing you how right there.
Every hour of research you invest saves hours of frustration later. Warren and I build our fortune by doing something most people are too lazy to do. We read a lot. We study, compare, analyze, question. That habit applies to everything, not just stocks. Buying a home, understand property taxes, maintenance costs, resale value. Buying a car, learn the repair record, fuel efficiency, depreciation curve. Buying a new gadget, check the lifespan, replacement cost, compatibility. If you don't understand it, don't buy it.
Bam.
That's a simple rule, but most ignore it and pay dearly. People love saying time is money, but they forget that ignorance costs more than patience ever will. A few hours of research might save you thousands. That's a trade even a fool should take. But most don't because the modern world rewards speed over sense. They want it now. They click before they think. Then they wonder why they're broke and unhappy. You don't need to be paranoid, just rational. Compare, ask questions, look for durability, not decoration. A good purchase should make your life easier, not your wallet lighter. The rich don't buy cheap, they buy smart. They pay for value, not for trends. That's why their things last longer, because their thinking does. When you treat every dollar as an investment, your brain starts working differently. You stop saying, can I afford this? And start asking, is this worth it? That single question will save you more money than any discount ever could. The irony is, research doesn't just save money. It builds character. It trains patience, discipline, skepticism, the same traits that build wealth. You can't be reckless with little money and expect to be wise with large sums. Habits compound just like capital. So before you buy anything, big or small, do the boring work. Learn, compare, verify. Don't let marketing think for you. Because if someone else is doing your thinking, they're also doing your spending. The market preys on laziness. Your best defense is diligence. A person who reads the fine print will always beat the one who clicks except without looking. It's not luck, it's literacy. Now here's something that separates the wealthy from the perpetually broke. Maintenance. Most people are great at buying things. They're terrible at keeping them alive. They'll spend months picking the right car, then skip the oil changes. They'll brag about owning a house, but ignore the roof until it leaks. They'll invest in their health, then eat like they're trying to die early. That's not bad luck. That's bad maintenance. And bad maintenance is one of the most expensive habits in the world. You see, most people think wealth is about accumulation, but real wealth is about preservation. What's the point of earning if you can't keep what you already have from falling apart? In business, we call it capital preservation.
Yeah.
In life, it's called common sense. A well
Yeah.
maintained machine lasts decades. A neglected one dies early and takes your wallet with it. It's the
Yep.
same with your body, your home, your relationships, and your mind. Everything deteriorates if you don't give it attention.
And see, he can speak on this. The man made it to 99 years old. He made it to 99. Most of us, I'm telling you, could. Betty White made it to 99. He can tell you, eat right, invest. He can tell you because he did it and he watched other people over the course of his life do it wrong. I have too, but I'm only 39. He was 99. So there's a start. And here's the thing, right? He's had a lot more time to do it right. I'm not saying I've never done this. I actually had a 520 credit score when I joined the Navy in 2008. Well, actually, it deteriorated to 2009. I think July of '09 was when I got everything on a payment plan and I started everything to be green on my credit report. So it was 520 again, I think August of '09. But in September '09, it went up a point or two. And I was like, ooh. So it bottomed out at 520 and it would have kept going had I not done something. Nothing will change if you change nothing. But this guy and I think alike. I'm not saying I've not lived through this and living through some of this, but it's not about me. I'm trying to help all of you. And the way I'm going to help all of you, I'm bringing you wisdom from the grave from a guy you never probably even heard of, never saw his face, and have not been acquainted with his method of thinking. And the real issue is going to be now, do you listen to what he said or not? That means you have to, what some of y'all have hinge joints on the side of your head right here. So you unlatch this, open your head up, take the bad part of your brain out and insert what he's talking about in. And if that's too much scrolling, doom scrolling, I think they call it, if it's too much video games, if it's too much, I don't care what it is that you're doing, you can't fit any water in the glass if it's filled with milk. You got to dump some of that milk out before the water can get in, right? So you got to stop doing whatever you're doing that's not helping you to insert this knowledge. Let's hear some more.
Entropy is nature's favorite hobby. Let me put it this way: preventive care is cheaper than repair in every area of life. People ignore their cars until they break, their roofs until they leak, their teeth until they ache, their finances until they collapse. Then they panic and call it an emergency. It's not an emergency. It's negligence coming due. I learned early on that small maintenance costs compound positively. A $50 oil change prevents a $5,000 engine failure. A $200 checkup prevents a $20,000 hospital bill. A single conversation can prevent a friendship from rotting. And yet people skip all three because they're busy. Busy is the favorite excuse of the incompetent. They're too busy to maintain what matters, then somehow find endless time to fix what they could have easily prevented. I've seen companies run by brilliant executives collapse because they stopped checking the fundamentals. And I've seen individuals go broke for the same reason. The principle doesn't change. Neglect compounds faster than interest. That's why I always tell people, your job isn't to constantly chase new things. It's to make sure the old ones keep working. In investing, we maintain discipline. In life, we maintain systems. It's the same muscle. You don't get rich by chasing every shiny opportunity. You get rich by keeping what's already working in top shape. It's not exciting. It's not glamorous, but it's profitable because maintenance of any kind is simply care translated into time. And the market always rewards care. Let's take your home. Most people treat it like a museum. They admire it but don't manage it. A leaky faucet turns into mold. Mold turns into renovation. Renovation turns into debt. Had they just spent an afternoon fixing the faucet, they'd still have their savings and their sanity. Or
Yep.
take your body. It's
Yep.
the only machine you'll ever own that can't be replaced. But people treat it worse than their cars. They refuel with junk, skip maintenance, and act surprised when it fails. They say health is wealth, but they forget that wealth without health is a museum exhibit. Nice to look at, useless to live with. Even your mind needs maintenance. Read,
God,
reflect,
dog.
relearn. Otherwise, it rusts. And rusted thinking costs more than any broken appliance ever could. And don't forget your reputation. That's another asset that requires regular care. One bad decision can destroy decades of credibility. Reputation, like machinery, must be oiled by consistency and protected from corrosion by stupidity. Maintenance in every sense is an act of humility. It's admitting that things decay and that you're not above that law. Only fools believe success makes them invincible. Wise people know it only gives them more to protect. When you maintain something, you're saying, I respect the cost of replacement more than the inconvenience of prevention. That's rational. That's Munger thinking. And here's the hidden benefit. Maintenance builds discipline. The same mindset that changes your car's oil on time will pay your taxes early, rebalance your portfolio, and check your assumptions before they ruin you. If you're sloppy in one area, you'll be sloppy in all of them. Habits don't compartmentalize, they replicate. So treat maintenance as a philosophy, not a chore, because maintaining what you have is the only way to deserve more. Finally, let me address the heart of rational living, prioritization. If you try to buy everything, you'll eventually own nothing that matters. Money is finite, attention is finite, and the biggest mistake people make is pretending both are infinite. That's why prioritization isn't just smart, it's survival. You can't have it all, but you can have what's important. The problem is, most people never stop to ask what that actually is. They buy what others admire, not what they value. They chase comfort without clarity, and when everything becomes a priority, nothing really is. I've seen millionaires and paupers make the same mistake, confusing spending with living. They think buying more things fills the emptiness of not knowing what truly matters, but it doesn't. It only amplifies the noise. Let me tell you a secret most won't like. A comfortable life isn't built by adding, it's built by subtracting. Subtract the unnecessary, subtract the envy, subtract the noise. What remains? That's where your peace and purpose live. You don't need to cut joy out of your life. You just need to rank it. There's a difference between what's nice and what's necessary, between pleasure and priority. Sit down and write it out. 5 things that truly improve your life, not the things you think you should have, the things that when you have them make you calmer, wiser, and freer. That's your compass. Everything else is a distraction. For one person, it might be family dinners. For another, solitude. For someone else, books, travel, or health. The list doesn't matter. The clarity does. Because once you know your top 5, every financial decision gets easier. You stop asking, can I afford this? And start asking, does this deserve space in my life?
Hey.
When you prioritize, you reclaim control. You stop living reactively. You stop buying things out of boredom or insecurity. You start spending like an investor, allocating capital toward happiness that compounds. Yes, happiness can compound. If you spend on things that actually matter, their returns multiply over time. A good education compounds, good health compounds, good relationships compound. The rest depreciates faster than your latest phone. So before spending, pause and ask, will this still matter to me in 5 years? If the answer is no, it's probably a waste. This kind of thinking may sound cold, but it's not. It's clarity, and clarity is the foundation of peace.
So he said we got what 3 more minutes of this video, so I'm gonna let it get to it. But one thing he's talking about here, this guy's too old to care about people's feelings, right? He's just telling you as it is. And I've heard that from older guys. They don't care about the feelings because they need to get the truth out. So he's just telling it as it is. He said it may sound cold, but he's just getting to the truth, right? So he's letting you know this is not cold or harsh. It's just the truth. And you need it. And if you worry more about how he said it to you than getting what he's saying to you, you're going to miss the point.
But it's not. It's clarity. And clarity is the foundation of peace. Even rich people need to prioritize. In fact, they need it more because options multiply confusion. The poor man wastes because he has too little. The rich man wastes because he has too much. In both cases, the disease is the same: lack of focus. If you can learn to prioritize on a small income, you'll be invincible when you have more, because money doesn't change your behavior, it amplifies it. If you're reckless when you're broke, you'll be catastrophic when you're rich. And that's why learning to live on less is a form of training. You're teaching yourself to think, to choose, to differentiate. That's real intelligence. Not IQ, but judgment. When you spend deliberately, you also start appreciating deliberately. Gratitude grows where chaos used to be. You stop needing constant novelty to feel alive. You start valuing the quiet satisfaction of having enough. Enough is a beautiful word. It's the dividing line between wealth and misery. You cross it the moment you realize more isn't better. Better is better. I've met plenty of people with less money than me, but I've met very few with less worry. That's because money doesn't eliminate worry. Discipline does. A low-income life lived intelligently is more peaceful than a high-income life lived stupidly. It's clearer, saner, freer. You don't wake up panicking about payments or layoffs. You wake up knowing you're in control because you've chosen simplicity over spectacle. Spend on what's valuable to you, not what signals value to others. If you enjoy a good meal, budget for it. If you love books, buy them. If you crave experiences, plan them, but do it consciously, not because an ad told you what happiness should look like. This is the paradox of money. The less you need, the richer you become, because real wealth is freedom from need. The people who master money aren't those chasing more. They're the ones who learn when to stop. So if you want to live well on a low income, don't think smaller. Think clearer. Ask yourself every day, what do I truly value? What can I live without? And what will I still care about when the noise fades? Answer those honestly, and you'll never feel poor again. Because the richest man in the world isn't the one with the most. It's the one who can say with complete calm, I already have enough. That's freedom. That's wealth. That's the rational life. And it's available to anyone brave enough to think for themselves.
And that right there is the end of that video. Look, folks, I don't have time for many closing statements, so I'll just make one or two. Watch that thing on replay. Share that out with any and everybody this can help. I'm going to put a link to the video in Discord as soon as I upload it to YouTube. But I'm going to tell you something. He talked about discipline. You need to get some. And if you never had it in your life before, then now is the time to implement it. You can sit there and be mad at what he said, or you can get on board with what he said. You'll never have an iota of the wealth that he has if you don't start now. Because the one thing that he didn't have, that we do have, we have time. And if you have kids, get this into the kids as young as possible. I'm not saying don't take them to the ice cream truck ever, but if from the time they're born to the time they're 18, you had 52 trips to the ice cream truck with $1, $5, $3, $10, and every time was money going out and buying things that were gone like that. You just taught them the middle class mindset. Understand that. If you never showed them how to turn $1 into $2, $2 into $3, then you didn't show them the wealthy man's mindset. You can't expect them to have it. And a lot of us are first generation trying to do this thing and trying to become wealthy. I know I am first generation. Parents didn't have it and they didn't have the knowledge, so they couldn't give it to me. But I'm getting it, so I'm trying to give it to you. All right, folks, the forge is going cold. I appreciate you. I love you. I will see you here next week. Remember, share this with somebody. If you're in Discord, invite everybody to Discord. If you're watching it on YouTube and you made it this far, look for the Blacksmith Podcast server on Discord, and you can join the community too and be a part of the change that you want to see. I hope you guys have a great week. I will see you back here next Saturday.